Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Bald Move Best of 2014. I think that's what we're calling it, right?
Top 10.
The top 10, the Bald Move top 10 for
Top
2014.
10.
This is going to be an experiment. The first time we've really done a top list of anything. We don't do too many of those. But our plan is to take all the shows that we watched in 2014, say independently from what was the best or what was personally our favorites, and say, okay, this is the top 10 for Bald Move.
Yep.
Like not Jim's top 10, not A.Ron's top 10, not the best of 2014.
Certainly.
Just our favorites from 2014, because you can't watch all the TV in 2014.
We can anyway. Although I made it an honest attempt. I was shocked. I had like damn near 30 things on a list of stuff that I've either seen everything of or a goodly portion of.
Is what is it, Strike Back or whatever on your list? The Amish.
You know what? I don't think
the Amish beating simulator.
I don't think a Banshee is on the list because I haven't finished the second season yet.
What season are they in?
They just started season 3.
Okay.
Like I think last week. So
well, there's a lot of these shows that we haven't seen all of.
Yeah.
From 2014. Like we've
some
seen a few episodes and stopped, or
some of them I tried and I just couldn't make it through.
Yeah.
So shall we without further ado? I mean, what's our criteria? It's just purely subjective. We're not even going to try to say that, oh, well, we've assigned a numerical rating and there's this much artistic merit and this much cinematography and this much. It's just
like somewhere along the line, we're going to have those arguments to determine which order they go in.
Right.
But those will all be based on our personal preferences.
And this is kind of a behind the scenes look. We decided that we are not going to talk about this until we actually start talking about it, and we're going to film it all. This might be a 3-4 hour thing. It might be an hour. I don't know. But this is to produce a top 10 podcast that we'll talk about later on this week.
Yes.
So this is for the diehards if you want to see behind the scenes process and kind of how we do things.
Yeah, the tough ones are probably going to be the ones that we haven't both seen.
Right.
Like, how do you argue that something doesn't belong on a list if you haven't seen it?
So I'm going to suggest we have a couple rules.
Okay.
We're allowed one foursome.
Okay.
Like it's a unilateral trump everything. I don't give a shit what you say. It's on the top 10
I'm
list.
using it for Fallen Skies, baby.
And then we have one veto.
Shit, put Z Nation on there. I totally forgot to put Z Nation on the list.
Okay. And then we'll have one foursome. Or no, we got
veto.
So we got one foursome rammed through.
Yep.
And then we got one veto.
So the idea here is
we have an executive order and we have a veto. And
it's to balance the power.
Executive order can trump a veto. At which point the person gets a veto back. Because what's the point of a foursome if you can just veto it?
Yeah, that's a fair point. Because you might want to veto something later.
There's a little strategy here too. Like if you just like force on any old thing, then you kind of gotta wait. Maybe that's an in-game thing. Like,
see, there's also like
it's also quite possible none of this will ever matter. Like we come up with a lot of mechanics that we actually don't use. But
well, I'm thinking like, so if I want to game that system, I go.
Yes, that's what we want to do.
I argue fervently for a show, but I don't use my force on, and I get you to veto it, and then I use my force on for something else.
So you're going to forcefully argue for Falling Skies to force me to
force
bleed
you
my
to veto it.
You know what? No, I'd let you have it. I just make sure it's prominently marked that this is a Jim selection.
Sure.
So yeah, you can die on that hill, my friend.
I want nothing to do with this number 4 slot.
So shall we go to the big screen?
Yeah, let's do it. We've got the list here. The first round of this is kind of just be us going down the list and saying, does this belong nowhere in the top 10?
Let's start. Z Nation belongs nowhere in the top 10.
Sure. I do want to spend a second talking about it, right? Because this is a show that it knows what it is, right? It's very much a zombie sci-fi B-movie bullshit series. Yeah. But it knows that and has fun with it, and I think that's the only reason it even made it onto this list in any capacity.
Well, yeah.
It's one of those where you put it on and you take it right off, but you just wanted to note it.
No, I would argue that it is...
Don't say it. You're going to say better than The Walking Dead, aren't you?
I think it's more successful doing what it wants to do than Walking Dead.
Okay. I agree with that.
That doesn't mean anything as far as the
Unless
quality.
you're talking about making money. And The Walking Dead is doing exactly what it wants to do.
That's true. So let's go ahead and strike through that. It is not getting mentioned.
Yeah.
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
I love this show.
Had a strong season last year. I've seen the first 2 episodes. This last episode where the gang goes gang dating it's almost South Park in its level of social satire.
Huh,
And
okay.
I really, really liked it.
Yeah, I like last season a lot. I think season 9, they start off with a bang. They do the thing where D, they pull one over on D, and in the process pull one over on Dennis. I think it's called The Gang Broke D. That's a phenomenal episode. I just like there's something about watching these horrible people do these horrible things, and most of the time not working out for them.
And it took me a while to get into that mindset because I remember when you and Cecily were like, "Oh, you gotta like this." I'm like, "This is like Seinfeld, only worse."
Yeah, Seinfeld steals a loaf of bread from an old lady. These guys would poison the bread, have the
Yes.
old lady die to get like some building that she's in.
Yes, and then then lose interest in the building before the episode's over.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna make our top 10 though, right? All right, because here's the thing, like
I don't know about that.
We should talk about-
It's not a definitely no.
we should talk about our biases for comedy.
Good point.
I noticed when I was coming up with my personal top 10 that I have a whole bunch of dramas and then comedies kind of cluster in another like sub tier of the bracket where there's like a comedy bracket where
Yeah.
these things, as good as they are, cannot approach Mad Men or True Detective, for example. And I don't know that I agree
It's
with
just
that.
apples and oranges, right? It's
Yeah.
not like I enjoy them equally, but I don't always weight them equally when I say what are the best shows.
And everyone says that comedy is harder to do than drama, but for whatever reason, my feelings on the matter is I don't treat them as the same. A
Yeah.
comedy, they're half hour, they're kind of freed from continuity. There's very little character development,
Uh-huh.
and that's kind of the point.
I think It's Always Sunny pulls off a lot of character development.
Bullshit. They never change.
Dude, take a look at Danny DeVito, season 1 or season 2 when he started, and now in season 10, he is a completely different person. Completely.
So that's like trying to argue that season 1 Homer is different than season 25 Homer. It's just
No.
it's just a much stupider version of the same guy.
I don't think you realize the depths that Frank has sunk to as a
No,
character.
I get it. He was a lot more savvy, kind of business mogul, a little bit more with it,
Now
a little
he's-
bit more Machiavellian. Now he's just a
eating
dumbass like
trash
everybody else.
in a wrestling ring for entertainment value. Like the man has changed fundamentally.
I don't know that it's character development the same way that I'm talking about it. Like again, to me, it's just
Any change in a character is character development, right?
I don't know. Like what? So how has Charlie changed? He's
Charlie's
huffed
a
more-
lot dumber, for sure.
But he's huffed more pain. I mean, but is it like if characters are just devolving into baser versions of themselves? Is that really a character?
Why is that not
change?
character development? Sure.
I don't
think
feel like
so.
it is. I feel like
I think it is.
all right.
We'll
I'm
agree to
just
disagree
trying
there, but
I'm trying to just kind of like the same thing like Parks and Rec. Like, has Leslie Knope changed from season 1 to what are we on season 6 now? Sure.
has Raylan Givens changed? Did Russ Cole ever change? I mean, I guess at the very end, he kind of gives up. Like, oh, I guess this is
Yeah.
a nice.
No,
This is a nice, cool thing.
I see where you're going, and I don't
They're
like it, but I can't disagree with
fundamentally
it.
the same characters, but circumstances have come together to make
Yeah.
them different.
So
Have
I'm
different reactions.
not saying it's rational. I'm just saying this is a bias that I'm aware of.
Yeah, and I do
that
it too.
No matter how good a comedy is, I doubt I would ever rank it as the #1 show in any given year.
How about Louis? Louis is a weird case
Sure.
because it's a dramedy.
I think
right?
Louis is at kind of the top, like near the top of my list for comedies, but I wouldn't make it better than True Detective or The Leftovers.
Yeah,
or Mad
yeah.
Men.
I guess I'm talking from like a character development standpoint. Does he develop much? I haven't seen a ton of Louis. I saw like the first season and season or 2.
I don't know. I mean, it depends. By your Always Sunny standard, then yes, he does change. But by my standards of like going through a narrative arc, then no. He's kind of this Louis or a fictionalized version of Louis. Sometimes it's more fictionalized and less fictionalized, but it's still recognizably a fictionalized version of his life. But I don't know.
Yeah, I guess in comedies the characterization changes that I see are kind of along the lines of, well, we had a character do something silly in this scene in this episode. Now, 2 seasons later, we're going to bring that back and we're going to do it again and make that part of his character.
Now
not
you're
just a one-off.
now you're touching on my deal. I feel like in comedy, character development is accumulation. It's the weight of gags on a particular character. The accumulated pratfalls and gags add up to this thing. Whereas in drama, they go through an arc. You know, like Russ Cole started as this nihilist loner, and he ends on a genuine moment of hope where he's like stared the universe and his black asshole come out the other side, and now things to light is winning. He actually is no longer on a terminal arc. That's different than, you know, we've implied a couple times that it's not Charlie or Dennis, the other guy,
Mac.
Matt. We've kind of made some jokes about Mac being gay, and now in this season, pretty much Mac's gay.
Yeah.
Even
what about Mac getting fat? I mean, there's your characterization.
Like
there's
at this point, last night they were talking. Here's how far that gag is going: is that someone said, you know, I forget what they said about him, but it's something like, you know, you're a slob and you're gay, and he goes, I'm not a slob. I mean, like, even the character himself has stopped fighting the thing. But
sure.
All this was to say about my hang up with comedy.
All right. Well, I think it's not a definite no on the top 10.
Okay.
Like, it's not an easy.
It's not a strike through.
Discarding. No.
It's not a strike through.
So let's move up. Falling Skies.
Falling Skies is a definite strike
no.
through.
Yeah. I do like this show, but I don't think it's a great show. I think it's good, and I think it's supported mostly on the back of Noah Wyle and Armageddon guy whose name I don't remember.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Weaver. I don't remember the actor's name, but those two guys are real good. I think there are some really bad actors in this show as well. I think there are some decent effects, and there are some really rotten effects.
I was surprised in the 3 or 4 episodes I watched how good the effects were.
For the show it is, yeah, the TNT show.
Yeah, I guess I was expecting some like Earth Final Conflict level stuff.
All right,
but this
was pretty
low
bar.
Yeah, I mean, this is I how would I describe this? Like a late '90s science fiction flick level of effects, maybe early aughts.
Yeah, I'm feeling like this is almost on par with like a Battlestar Galactica.
Okay.
Like when you look at the Cylons versus the aliens in Falling Skies.
Yeah.
I feel like those are roughly similar.
And I think some of the alien work was striking. Like whatever the hatful of butthole races.
The Ishpini.
I thought they were that combination of practical and CGI was like really, really cool in the same way that
looks awesome.
Like the I forget what the guys in the Fifth Element are called. The ones that Mangalores.
Oh,
I think they're the Mangalores.
I don't know. That sounds very Star Warsy to me, but
that's Mandalores.
I'm thinking Mandalore. Yeah.
But no, so you know, it's a fine genre. It's Z Nation essentially.
It's better than Z Nation.
It's better than Z Nation, but it's
not as self-aware though. Is the problem? It wants to be a little bit better than it actually is. It thinks it's a little bit better, and therefore it falls flat sometimes.
So it's got the Walking Dead syndrome.
A little bit, yeah.
It needs to decide whether it wants to fully embrace the schlock, or dispense with more of the schlock to focus on the drama.
Yeah.
All right. Foo Fighters, Sonic Highways. Make your argument for that, because I watched 3 episodes and I was not very impressed. I was
okay, and I can see why.
Now I think I watched. Shit, I can't even remember the cities. That's a problem. Like it could be either Chicago or Louisiana.
Those are wildly different cities.
And Louisiana's not even a city; it's a state.
I know.
I know. I saw Austin.
Okay.
I think it was
where
Chicago.
They did Austin City Limits. That was a pretty good one.
I think it was Chicago, and I want to say Philly.
Yeah. So the problem to me
was the first, whatever the first 3 were.
So I'll talk about some of the bad things, and then I'll talk about some of the good things. The bad thing about this show is I think the songs weren't unique enough to the locations that they were in.
Oh, we on the Baldwin TV, I called total bullshit. Like Dave Grohl maybe reworked 2 or 3 lines, not whole verses, lines to just it's like rapper style reference.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's very. It's very loosely based on the city they're in. They all sound like Foo Fighters songs. None of
Right.
them sound different.
Yeah.
Which, like, I kind of understand that's the kind of music they make, but
Sure.
they're ostensibly going to the cities and writing songs
Well,
inspired
you
by
can
them.
do like, country western versions of heavy metal and vice versa. Like you can put elements. You could throw some steel guitar in there if you're doing something about,
And they do some of that stuff. Like
Nashville.
when they go, it's someplace out in, I think it's Los Angeles is the episode. There's someplace way out in the desert. Maybe it's Vegas. I don't know. But they have one episode where Joe Walsh comes in and does some licks on guitar, and they're sucking him off left and right because
Yeah.
he walks into the studio, he plays one lick, and they're like, "That's it, record it." He
Right.
plays it once, boom, that's the record.
Right.
But like I felt like he was just kind of Joe Walsh.
Mhm.
Like that's a weird thing to do when you're in a location like that. I mean, maybe Joe Walsh embodies that area, but I don't see it. I mean,
I guess
maybe he sees things that I'm not seeing in the music.
I was expecting to come away each hour with a unique appreciation about the musical history of each city and to hear Dave Grohl somehow transform that into a track on the album.
Yeah.
And what I got was a fairly kind of surfacey grasp on a particular era or maybe a particular wave of that
Yeah,
scene.
like a particular style. Dave Grohl is about punk growing up.
Yeah.
And grunge, obviously.
Yeah.
And it reflects completely in what he's doing in each city.
And I also
he's
didn't
looking for the grunge. He's looking for the punk,
And
not looking for the city.
I was also kind of hoping to see how these were maybe influences he was passionate about.
Yeah.
Where the other thing that I was disappointed is it seemed to me clearly he came to each city, some cities more than others, but just not knowing shit. And,
yeah.
And it not really meaning anything to him on a personal level. It was just like, well, this is the concept. We got to do this 10 times. Like I imagine the Seattle one was pretty good.
The Seattle one was great.
Which that makes sense because I do believe he knows the
Sure.
the grunge roots and influences.
I thought
forwards
the
and
Washington
backwards.
D.C. one was pretty good too because that's where he grew up, like in that
That
area.
doesn't also you tell
like
me
Virginia,
that doesn't
D.C.
surprise me.
area.
Right.
Yeah. And so he goes into a lot of punk stuff there, and
Sure.
he kind of goes to multiple cities and says, "Hey, this is where punk started," which kind of annoyed me a little bit. But I guess it was he frames punk as more of a just rebellious attitude, not necessarily a style of music, and that I kind of buy. But when he goes to places like Nashville,
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't come away with country music to me.
No.
Which Nashville is country music
And
through
felt like
and through.
I think that I think I got Austin and Nashville confused because
he goes to ACL and does some really great stuff in Austin.
but the Nashville episode especially I felt like he didn't really care or respect any of the influence from that city, which is surprising because it's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, I don't know. That was a tough one for me to like. I quit watching there for a little bit, and then I went back and watched the rest of them because I was like, well, let me give this another try. So anyway, it doesn't make it on my list. I do really like some of those episodes.
So this is a strike through.
Yeah, I'd say strike it through.
Okay.
You haven't seen it, and I don't think it's top 10 worthy.
All right, that brings us to Veep. This is a show that I've
Veep.
seen. I felt like I've seen the end of the last 10 or 15 minutes of every episode because what happened was I'd come home from live instant watching The Walking Dead, and my girlfriend would be finishing it up, and I'd be writing a news article and all that stuff. It seems really funny.
Yeah.
Like what was it, the 3 R's when she was in the presidential debate or the vice president? That
Oh, yeah, and
she
forgets the
forgot her
third
own
R.
talking points, which
Uh-huh.
that actually happens
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
in politics. I thought it was like this last week's State of the Union address where they had like 7 different responses, and some of them were shot like live on camera, and the stupid guys like I think it was, I can't remember which guy it was. I want to say Mike Huckabee, but he was like starting, and he's like, wait, I want to start over. Not understanding that this is streaming live. You can't fucking do over. You just look like an idiot.
yeah.
Like these guys are not ready for prime time, but everybody's throwing their hat in the ring.
Sure.
I like that. I like political satire and lapoonery,
It's good.
but I haven't seen it. So
The pace of this show is one that I talked in the past about me having trouble keeping up with, mostly because I'm not super into politics, and when they go off on references and shit like that, it loses me, and then it's tough to get back in the flow of the show.
Yeah.
Once you fall off that track. So like I'm not gonna say it's not like it's a definite no. I really like the her kind of throwing her hat in the ring for president this year.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been building since season 2. She's had that idea rolling around, and she finally decided to execute on it. There was some pretty funny stuff with Ray, her trainer, trainer / lover or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Good stuff there, and I like the characters.
They're using him as a distraction for her, so she doesn't. I mean, that's what I got out of it. Like that, he was like a play toy to keep her from doing something worse, or to get involved with somebody that she.
But then he fucks up so badly that he becomes a problem for the campaign.
Right.
Yeah. It gets weird there. Some of those episodes I like, some of them I don't.
What do you think about the one where she went to a gun show? Women, or was it it was like a women's gun show? I thought that was a really funny one. Because I've been,
show.
Which
one is that? I feel like IMDb is going to be super helpful.
Yeah.
Veep.
I thought that was funny because I've been to a lot of gun shows in Indiana.
You're at one now. Oh.
And seeing this person try to like pass in that culture and like say all the right things, but like, what would an extremely liberal person that believes in gun control say if she's at a gun show trying to seem like she's not?
Okay, yeah.
Like if we...
That's not a whole episode, right? That's just a...
No, it's like
a small
I think it was
chunk of an
damage
episode?
control from her saying something really terrible. But there again, I haven't seen the episodes. Is this top 10 worthy?
I like Clovis as well as an episode.
Ruling it out, or is it top 10 worthy?
It's not a definite no, but I have a strong feeling it's not going to make the top 10.
You want to just strike
because
it?
you haven't seen... Yeah, let's strike it.
I can't put anything on a top 10 that I haven't seen.
There's a lot of shows that we haven't seen
unless you want to use your force on, then
yeah. All right,
strike this shit through.
get rid of it.
Silicon Valley, another one that I have not seen, but you might
Another
feel strong
comedy.
about.
Yeah, I really love this show. To me,
Now, was this an even like great throughout?
No.
Or because I heard a lot of started strong, lost its way in the middle, finished extremely
fucking
strong.
Finished fantastically. Yeah, I think it lost its way somewhere in the middle and sagged a little bit. I like the characters a lot, though. Like, I don't know any of their actual names, but they're all really funny comedians. I've seen them in a lot of other things as well. And just the dynamic that they have together is really, really good. Really funny. And then, you come into the last episode and it just goes out on a bang, man. The people will know what I'm talking about, but the Cox, it's basically a whole episode of Cox.
Okay.
But those scenes in that episode are hilarious.
Are you talking about like real physical cocks flopping around? Like
No.
Okay, it's just cock references.
Although I suppose
cock
on HBO
jokes.
that could happen.
Yeah, sure.
Cock jokes, yeah.
Okay.
It's actually one joke, but it is so extended that it's one of those things where it's like, okay, that was kind of funny. I can't believe you're going to go on with this. Oh, okay, you're really going to take this to the extreme. Fine, I'm on board now. And I really love how that show finishes up.
Top 10 worthy?
It's not a no. It's not a definite no.
All right. I'll skip
For
to...
me, anyway. How much of that did you see? Any of it?
None. Not a
None
single
of it?
one.
Wow.
Not a single one.
Okay. I feel like those are going to be hard to convince each other that they need to be on the list.
Yeah, but I mean, if you say that, like, out of all the because there's a lot of comedies that are in kind of my wheelhouse, and if you're saying that it's better than those, and I'd trust you, but
We'll see.
let's talk about Homeland.
Okay.
I stopped watching this season when it got quote unquote good, but I also heard that it kind of ended very preposterous. I don't know. This feels like a show that it could have had a all-time great first season. It had a decent second season. The third season, they finally got around to doing what they need to do with Brody, and then the fourth season could have been a great reboot, but it felt like that they were artificially pushing Quinn and Carrie together. and like the show thinks that this show needs the complex relationship angle. It can't hang just on basic spycraft and the stresses that takes on a person's life, the very unique qualities and insanity you need to be a successful field agent. And I don't know. I thought I'd get back to watching it, but then I heard everyone that I respected from Bill Simmons to Alan Sepinwall was really panning the last episode, and I just kind of sapped my interest. To me, it's a strike off.
Yeah, I watched the first 4 episodes.
There's an insane amount of good television. There's no way this is going to make my top 10.
I'm fine with that. I quit watching purposefully, not like I just got too busy or anything.
Okay.
Episode 4. I hear it gets better at episode 5, like you said, but if it finishes terribly, no thank you.
Masters of Sex season 1 I thought was great.
I saw 1 episode of this season.
Right. I think you saw 2 actually.
2? The one you made me watch, and then the one that we talked about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Season 2 I thought was kind of boring, and I gave up after about 4 episodes.
Huh.
I'll probably watch it in the dog days of summer, but it's certainly not going to be something I fight for in my top 10. So I feel like that's another strike through.
I'm fine with that.
And I'm not saying it's a bad show.
I think
I'm just saying that compared to the last season, I thought it was boring, and yeah.
Yeah, I think,
it's a one-note show.
The Tron Legacy guy is pretty good in it. But other than that, like... Yeah.
Wait, that's not Jeff Bridges. That's Beau Bridges.
No. The other Tron Legacy guy. The guy who is in, like, that crazy disco place or whatever, the rave.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah,
Martin Sheen.
Yeah.
Martin Sheen? No.
Yeah. No, it's a Sheen. I think it might be Martin. Anyway, I'm striking through, moving on.
I got to look it up, or it'll bug me the whole time.
Yeah, I just realized I can't look up anything because it'll go on I guess I could switch it to logo or a different view, but...
you could do it on that screen, right?
Possibly.
Does that work?
Possibly.
It is not Martin Sheen. God, that's...
Oh, that's the big Sheen.
Yeah, that's the big Sheen.
That's the main Sheen.
Here, let's look up Tron Legacy. It is...
It's not Charlie or Martin.
Michael Sheen.
Michael Sheen. There you go.
Plays Castor and/or Zeus.
So let's move on to the next one. I believe this was on Stars. It's Outlander.
I didn't see any.
It's an adaptation of a novel. Could be a novel series, which was shouted out in.
Is it a YA novel?
No. It's a mature women
those.
novel, I guess.
Okay.
About a kind of time traveling woman. That
kind of time is she delusional?
That's an open question from the episodes I watched.
Okay.
And this is a Ronald Moore production, Battlestar Galactica. I know a lot of women liked it. Myself and my girlfriend thought the first 2 episodes, the pilot in particular, is just extremely boring. Extremely boring.
It's what you want your pilot to be.
Like it's 7/10 over before you get to the time travel part, and then it's just kind of confusing. I didn't get it. It could be that it just doesn't appeal to me. It could be one of those Anne of Green Gables situations where it's like, I'm sure if you're in this show's wheelhouse that you're all about it, but didn't like it. So
it's one of those bodice and cummerbund shows.
Benedict?
No, the actual cummerbund, the tuxedo accessory.
Yeah. Orphan Black. Have you seen any of Orphan Black?
I haven't seen any of it, but I hear good things. At least I hear good things about the lead actress.
Sure.
Not the show.
Tatalia, whatever.
Yeah.
I will force myself to watch the first 4 episodes of season 1, and I just didn't get it. I don't even want to say anything more than that, other than she could be amazing, but I didn't understand. I felt like it's one of those shows where it's got a very convoluted plot with a lot of stuff going on, and you have to kind of be invested from the beginning to pay attention to follow along.
Yeah.
And it might be one of those Wire situations where if I'd forced myself to get through another episode or 2, I'd have gotten hooked, but I don't know, man. Even with The Wire, I never felt like that. I felt like it was very watchable, and this show, for whatever reason, doesn't scratch my watchable itch. So
All right. Well, I haven't seen it, so if you want to mark it off.
Sons of Anarchy. It could be.
Before we get into Sons of Anarchy,
Yeah.
did you put Black Mirror on this list? Did you see the Christmas special?
No, I haven't seen any Black Mirror.
Shit, I haven't seen the Christmas special, which is the only one that aired in 2014. So
Okay.
crap. I feel like that might have been on my list though, because I fucking loved Black Mirror. What I saw of it.
All right. Well, next year.
Next year we'll have a 2014 on the 2015 list.
What are you talking about? I thought you said Christmas was the only one that aired in 2014.
It was, yeah. But next year we'll be talking about 2015 shows.
It's not. There's no way it'd make my top 10 list because again, I haven't seen it. So
I know.
I heard lots of good talk about it on the forums.
Oh well, that's an asterisk on the list.
I
there.
had to catch up with the Americans. That sucked. And
Yeah.
marathoning. I marathon both seasons, or almost both seasons of Banshee and the Americans in the last 6 weeks. So
Yeah, I did Justified in the Americans.
uh,
We've been busy.
We've been busy. Sons of Anarchy. It could be the best show on television. I wouldn't know because when we started covering it, it was 5 seasons in, and when we started covering television, it was already 5 seasons in. And the rep is that it's kind of glory days are long behind it. So
I saw season 1. I went through and I watched it, and I wasn't that impressed enough to invest in the entire back catalog that is Sons of Anarchy.
my cousins loved it. I went to their Halloween party, and they were all dressed up as a major character from.
Wow, they did love it.
Yeah, they did like replica vests, and my cousin Nikki had a giant fork sticking out of the back of her head, which was pretty cool, and I guess screen accurate or plot accurate. But again, I'm not saying anything about its quality.
I heard that the last season was not good.
No, I mean just following along with the Natterborn
That it
discussion.
ended in a bullshit way.
So
Get it out of here.
yeah, let's do it.
Strike through.
Strike through that shit. Rectify.
I saw the first few episodes of the first season, and I liked what I saw a lot.
It seems to me like I would like it because no one's directly compared it to this, but it feels to me like when I hear Seppenwall talk about it, it's got that Leftovers vibe, like meditation on loss and sadness and regret. And I, for whatever reason, that stuff really kind of puts a spell on me.
Yeah, I think you would like the show a lot. The lead actor is phenomenal through and through. But like I said, I haven't seen anything since season 1, and it was season 2 last year. So
All right.
get it out of here.
Hannibal.
I haven't
You
seen
have
any of
no
Hannibal.
opinion.
None of
I
it.
thought the first season was good, especially for network television standards. Heard season 2 was even better. I wrote this off as a loss because it was going to come out during our insane February-March run. Got pushed back to summer, so now I'm hopeful that maybe we'll get it back on our slate. But for now, I can't really say anything about it except for its rep. So
Except for it's stricken through. That's all I know.
Transparent.
Didn't see any of it.
Amazon series with
Fucking Arrested Development.
Yeah, Arrested
guy.
Development guy. I forget his name. God damn it.
All right.
So-
Jeffrey Tambor.
Jeffrey Tambor. This show has got an amazing reputation. I have no opinion on it because I can't even imagine what a serious, sensitive comedy about a transgendered woman played by Jeffrey Tambor would even look like.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, like I associate him with comedy.
but it got such high marks that I'm going to watch it. It's just a matter. It's
Is it a comedy?
probably- I think.
Or is it more of a drama?
Well, it's like one of those like Girls.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
it's funny and it has absurd, but I mean, I think it's
But
supposed
it's
to
also
be a
asking
dramedy.
important questions
Yeah, so it's
and-
one of those dramedy types.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Okay.
there, it didn't make our list because neither one of us has seen it.
Mhm.
Good Wife. Again, this
I
could
haven't
be
seen it and I don't care to.
this could be the best fucking show on television. I don't see it. I don't have any interest in it. I hope it's not just me seeing like a woman in a starring role and like, but
the title, The Good Wife, to me invokes images of like Desperate Housewives and that sort of shit. And I know it's nothing like that.
yeah,
It's a drama.
sure.
And it's much better than all that. But I just haven't had the time to see it.
As you can see, my strike through trigger finger is itchy. So, kapow.
You know what shows we haven't talked about is like, I don't know if The Strain is on this list. I don't know if Extant is on this list, but we've kind of talked about those in previous Bald Move TVs. I mean, these are things we put on and we immediately take off, right?
Extant. I watched the first 2 episodes. It was terrible.
Oh, you made it to the second episode.
Well, because I
Congratulations.
wanted. I am a sucker for robot boys, little robot boys, and I wanted to
I
see
would not put that on the internet.
like in the AI sense of the word.
Oh,
The
okay.
artificial
All right.
intelligence Spielberg Kubrick
Yeah,
joint.
yeah, yeah.
That's the kind of stuff. There's something tragic about a Pinocchio boy with feelings that gets me, and I
Sure.
complicated relationships with mothers and things like that. But it was really bad, like really bad.
There were
What I saw of
there were
it.
like parts of it that I liked, but not enough to keep
They were
me
the parts
watching.
about the robot boy.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
And like the speech that he's giving when he's talking about the robot boy and the defense that people automatically have to AI humans.
Yeah, and I like that guy
AI
who was
androids.
basically the George Clooney replacement on ER after George left.
And I thought they had some interesting stuff going with Halle Berry. When she was up on the space station and was seeing shit and she comes back pregnant, that's a crazy premise, but then it fell apart when she did the like guy coming out of the bushes and saying like there's a special plot for you and we watching you, and it lost me
And
there,
just
man.
like the
It lost me.
ridiculousness of you're going through a NASA or whatever quarantine. The doctor overseeing the quarantine program
Lets you-
sees you're
yeah,
pregnant,
yeah.
but well, you're my good friend, so
I'm gonna
unleash
give you a day.
unleash your fucking race of xenomorphs onto the entire planet.
Yeah, yeah.
No, fuck off. That's stupid.
Did she lose her
Strike
job
through.
in episode 2? Because if not, I'm calling
No.
bullshit. All right,
The
bullshit.
Strain
Get it out of here.
was schlocky
Get outta here.
fun.
Yeah, it's
But no, it's not going to be on our top 10.
no.
I didn't even finish it.
Neither did I.
I would like to see some Corey Stoll. I'd like to stick with it long enough to see what happens to his wig.
Yeah,
American Horror Story.
I didn't see any of it, but I think you did.
Yes, I watched the whole damn thing, podcasted it. It started out in I haven't seen the first 2 seasons to a lot of fans' chagrin. I saw Coven. I thought Coven was, for what it was and for how I was approaching it, a lot of fun. But I get the opinion that it was like a down season. And
Even with Kathy Bates in it, huh?
yeah,
Was she not good enough to redeem the whole
I think she
thing?
was awesome, and I like.
But she couldn't just make a series herself.
I honestly I don't understand why people had a huge problem with Coven, except for I guess some people were. I think this is a Murphy problem that he does some things really well. Like there was like a lot of preseason banter about whether American Horror Story is the most feminist show on television because it does a lot of things and there's a lot of strong female roles. But there was a lot of uncomfortable things like Kathy Bates, and this is a problem with this season now that I think about it. Kathy Bates was this evil slave owner. Like she tortured her slaves for fun and for like experimentation purposes. And then they kind of sort of try to redeem her when they bring her to the modern times. And it's like, some people are so bad, you can't really redeem them. And it's like, if you had an Adolf Hitler biopic that focused on his love of dogs and watercolors, there's
They do. It's called It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
there's people that have problems with that premise just on the face of it. And and some of the material like that, it's horrific. But then when you try to redeem the monster, the Freak Show wanted us to root for some people that were doing vile and despicable things. Like the lines between the heroes and the villains were very, very blurry, and I think it suffered for that. It started off strong. Twisty the Clown was a fantastic character. When they got in his backstory, it was actually one of the things where they did successfully redeem a monster. But then that was 4 episodes in, and I felt like they didn't really have a great idea of what they were going to do. And then there was like 6 episodes of it just flailing around, committing the crime of boring us. And in the final 3 episodes, there was a Neil Patrick Harris character, Chester, who was a magician / puppet with a possessed puppet. That was kind of interesting, but he was just a 2 and done. And then the pilot, the finale was just terrible.
That's what I heard too.
It was just a rush hack job, gave people happy endings that didn't deserve happy endings. That's all to say. Strike through. All right, first comedy. No, that's not true. First comedy I've actually seen, Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
First comedy I haven't seen.
So there's a couple shows.
I saw the pilot and maybe one other episode.
And it's great. Terry Crews is
Yeah.
amazing. Andrew
The
Branaga
captain or whoever that
is amazing.
Andy Sandberg, I think, is always funny.
This cast is effortlessly diverse as far as
Yeah.
like backgrounds and sexuality and sexes and races. But there's a couple shows like this that I really, really enjoy when I'm watching it, but I'm never excited to see it on my DVR. Another one is like Comedy Bang Bang with Reggie Watts and some other
Sure.
dude. Every time I watch that show, I usually horse laugh 2 or 3 times and have an excellent time, but it sits on the DVR and I'm like, seems like there's always something I'd rather watch or I'm not in the mood. And I don't know why.
I do that with Portlandia.
See, I'm the Portlandia is a Brooklyn Nine-Nine that I just can't wait for. I love Portlandia.
But you have to be in a certain mood for Portlandia.
I see what you're saying. I disagree, but that's where I'm saying like
But you're saying you're always in that mood.
Yeah, where Brooklyn Nine-Nine
Yeah.
is the other one. It's great. It's like a very accessible sitcom. That it's the degree of difficulty to do a cop show that's a comedy
Yeah.
is where you're actually dealing with murders and drug busts and stuff. It's very high, and they do it. But I don't know why I don't like Brooklyn Nine-Nine and I love Parks and Rec or I love Portlandia. But there it is.
Isn't Andy Sandberg in that kind of like Archer in that he's a buffoon most of the time and an asshole, but yet he's still really good at his job?
I don't know that he's even that really good at his job.
Like
You don't see him doing his job enough to kind of. I mean, it's essentially an office. It's just like Archer, an office comedy.
Yeah.
The comedy devolves around the interpersonal relationships and their petty fights and their personal foibles, and it has very little to do with what they're actually doing in the field.
Yeah. Like The Office is not about selling paper.
But it might be because I just watch so much television that I already like Parks and Rec is my office comedy.
Yeah.
So I don't have space in my heart for 2 of them. And Parks and Rec was the first. It's a love letter to Indiana. I'm a Hoosier. Boom.
Sure. That's an easy win for you.
Bottom line is format strike through.
God, Alt-Shift-8. You
Uh,
got Alt-Shift-8'd.
I'm afraid it'll switch my camera angles because I got a bunch of hot. Yeah.
That's
so
right.
I'm not even going to fuck
Yeah,
with it.
good call.
True Blood, strike through. If you want to know why, listen to my podcast series where my girlfriend and I will tell you, hold you by your hand.
Worst ending of any series you've ever seen?
I think from a fan, like anti-fan service, we're like there is like 3 or 4 camps of fans that wanted, and you couldn't please them all. So let's come up with an ending that pleases no one aggressively. That's what they decide. Like, fuck you. Oh, you've invested 7 years of your life in this show. Fuck you. That's how I felt, and I wasn't even that invested. Like
Alt-Shift-8, man.
Yeah.
Strike through.
It's
it's
already done. Yeah.
Never mind. Can you do it again?
Double. Bold it. Strike through with a bold. Gotham. I've seen half of Gotham,
I haven't seen any of it.
and it's good, but it's not top 10 worthy.
What's becoming clear to me is that you spend far too much time watching TV.
I certainly watch more TV than you.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
And you miss out on a lot, but you also miss out on a lot.
I lose some things. I gain some things.
Yeah, net you're probably even.
Yeah. Not good enough. From what I hear, to make it into our top 10.
No.
Started off maybe kind of bullshit, then got kind of good, and then got bullshit again.
I thought the pilot's one of the
right?
weaker episodes, honestly.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that they tried. They like, man, for
Too much
pilot
fan
episodes
service.
as Batman as hell.
Yeah.
Like the only way it could be more Batman is if a Batman fucking showed up. But then they kind of found their groove and figured out how to make Jim Gordon interesting. The real problem is Jim Gordon's wife is terrible. She's one of the most hate-worthy characters I've seen. She's trying to get her husband killed in every episode, from what I can tell.
There are a lot of hate-worthy wives on TV.
Yeah.
Lori Grimes, Betty Draper. Betty's
you know
getting
what?
better, but
And it's not just. Here's the thing. It's not just because guys hate women, although that's a part of it. There's a lot of misogyny in the country.
Yep.
It's not because like, well, you're always going to hate the person that's in opposition to hero.
That's
Anyone
part
that
of
says that, I'm like, watch Justified.
Yeah.
Because like you cannot take like Ava and Winona, who are in those classic roles of foils to their more arguably badass husbands, but they actually, the way they go about disagreeing and the way they go about, and they're not like meek. I'm not saying like they're, they like keep silent, but it feels more real. And they,
Yeah.
The way they fight and the way they lead their lives, I can understand. Like, I don't understand Lori Grimes going back and forth and changing her mind and doing this.
Yeah.
I've already spoken enough about Skylar White, but it's possible to write fully realized female characters or in opposition to strong men and not have them come across as confused little children harpies. And
Yeah, Justified does it really well.
yeah, there's probably others I'm thinking about, but yeah, Gotham has a real problem with that.
Okay. Strike it.
Struck.
Yeah, stricken.
The Breach.
The Breach. I saw the first few episodes of this. I quit.
The Bridge was
At the Mole Man or the Sloth Dude, whatever his face was.
The Bridge's problem is that it couldn't string together a whole bunch of episodes that anyone gave a shit about.
The Bridge's problem is it didn't focus on the things that anyone is interested in.
Yes.
It focused on some side plot with some crazy serial killer, and I just wanted to see the fucking drug war, man.
Yeah,
That's what I wanted to see, and it didn't do it.
This show could easily be The Wire of El Paso.
Yeah.
And it contents itself to be a mashup of like Hannibal and it's got like Hannibal and Dexter in my The Wire. And I get that
Two great tastes.
Season 5 of The Wire had a little bit of that angle going in that was like all, but no, I mean, like, you got to decide what the hell story you're telling and then tell it. And this show had great leads. It had pretty good writing at times, but season 2 started bad, got really good, and then ended preposterously bad. And I was not excited for season 3, and season 3 will not be forthcoming. So
no, there were two reasons that I started watching that. One was the potential for the drug war stuff, and the other was Matthew Lillard.
Matthew Lillard's great.
Who I think is still awesome in that show and everything he does.
I think
he's crazy.
Was it Emily Rojas? She's the Andrea from Breaking Bad, the lesbian journalist partner of Matthew Lillard that works in El Paso. And she was a really good character. She had a lot of strong moments. The
Bridge. I like the main actor,
Damien Bashir.
Yeah, I liked
Buffalo Bill.
All
the characters are really good. Honestly,
his
Sonia
sidekick, Sonia. I started to like a couple episodes in.
Yeah, and I think it takes, because I remember when I watched for season 1, the first 2 or 3 episodes, I really didn't like her, and then I started kind of feeling.
And the actress is really good.
She is.
Yeah,
and she's just interesting to watch. She's one of those ones, kind of like a Bryan Cranston, who can just go through a scene for 60 seconds with her brow furrowed, looking and thinking about things. And John Hamm's good at that too. Yeah, and you feel like a lot has happened, even though not much has. She's very watchable. But it struck through. Here's a complicated one for many reasons. The Walking Dead.
Yeah, now we're getting to shows that actually might make a list, right?
So Prime The Walking Dead is number 1. What are we talking about? Are we talking about season
2014, man? We're talking about
So that's season 4B plus 5A?
Oh yeah, no, that's fair. February to October there, huh?
Yeah.
Damn, I don't know. What do you think about that?
I don't know. Because season 4B had some strong stuff.
Yeah.
I wasn't happy with how well it was executed. But it had, finally I got to see the Rick and Carl scene that I've been waiting for since I started reading the comics. I thought they did a very admirable job of where they left it with the Terminus plotline.
Yeah.
I thought the stuff with Glenn and Maggie trying to get reunited was horseshit and did irreparable damage to their characters. Season 5A started off incredibly strong with the Carl Rambo
Terminus. Yeah.
What was that episode called?
No Sanctuary.
No Sanctuary. In retrospect, I can't believe I hated the end of the Terminus sequence as much as I did the church shootout, because that turned out being one of the bright points before we went to Slab Town and the murder rape hospital. with a brief glimmer of with a really strong episode with Daryl and Carol.
Yeah,
and
consumed.
then it's kind of a nothing of a finale. So
yeah, I don't like what they did with Beth and Maggie because it didn't pay off because we didn't care at that point because Maggie didn't care.
they introduced Morgan back in the plot, but it never went anywhere.
Not in a meaningful way. Yeah,
They told these parallel looping narrative structures that felt like it was just for show. It didn't actually. It actually detracted from the story they're trying to tell instead of enhanced it or made it more interesting.
All right. Well, it's not an automatic.
It's not an
no.
automatic no.
We'll come back to this and debate it a little bit more when we get closer to a top 10 here.
Justified. Season 5, easily the worst season in Justified history. Not saying it's bad.
Yeah.
Just Michael Rappaport's character sucked. I never believed.
I don't think it's the worst season in history. I think 1 is worse.
Really?
Just because of the format, yeah. I think the procedural nature of season 1 makes it worse, in my opinion, than season 5.
Yeah, but the arc that ran through of the Crowders and introducing Arlo Givens.
At least it had an arc. At least it was a serialized drama. We're not dealing with the same show anymore from season 1.
But I'm talking about season 1. Yes, it did have Gangsters of the Week and too many of them, but the narrative arc it ran about, the Crowders and the Givens and his history and having to reconfront that and the death of Boyd's father. And
that happened in like 2 episodes, right?
No, there was like a 5
Scattered
episode
throughout.
stuff. Yeah. But I'm just saying that was more enjoyable than the main hook of the,
the
swamp
cartel
people.
Stuff is what I didn't like about
Really?
season 5, really. I mean, I like Michael Rappaport, and I thought the guys coming up from Florida was not a bad thing to do.
Yeah.
It fell flat for me when it tried to get too intricate with the cartel, and it just kind of lost me somewhere in there.
Oh, you're talking about this season. I thought you were talking about the Miami cartel from season 1. I know. I just, my problem is I have to believe that the big bads are a serious threat to Raylan Givens, and in no universe did I ever think that Daryl Crow could beat Raylan or Boyd in a straight up gunfight or battle of the brains.
That's true.
Like between Limehouse and Carpetbagger, absolutely. Mags Bennett could manipulate and outfight and out argue both Boyd and Raylan in a town hall setting.
Yep.
Season 4 where you had, who was the big bad in that? It was the renegade Tonin guy.
Theo.
Like he had the balls to go after
or Sammy.
Raylan's wife.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Sammy. That's his son.
There are only 2, Theo and Sammy.
I know, but there's the enforcer who's the big bad.
Clipper or Clopper or Pepper or whatever.
Yeah.
Pepper Potts.
That
Pickers.
And also the ex Desert Storm Special Forces guy. Even though he looked like a sack of shit, he by the end of the season kind of won me over.
Really?
And I don't know.
The only part that I really liked about season 4 was the stuff they did with Raylan and his dad near the very end,
which was really strong. And also the finale.
I mean, I guess the stuff with Boyd and fighting against the kind of the people who run the town there. He was trying to get one over on them and did get one over on most of them in that season. And then in season 5, he got one over on the final guy. But I guess that stuff was good. Like Patton Oswalt was in that. I'm just like,
no, the final like 2 or 3 episodes where they ended up with the shootout at the high school and Raylan, some classics, some of the best Raylan Boyd moments in the whole series. It was still enjoyable. Season 5 just didn't work on almost any level, and yes, it did get ahead of steam in the last 3 episodes, but it was all built around the idea of Daryl Crow being able to outthink and outfight Boyd and Raylan, and I just never bought it. And I think that when I read the behind-the-scenes Graham Yost where that Jean-Baptiste guy walked out like after 3 or 4 episodes of shooting, like what the fuck do you do?
That sucks. Because I would have believed him as a guy who might have been able to outthink Raylan.
Yeah.
And maybe outshoot him.
Like I would excuse a lot more of the Walking Dead's bullshit if the guy that played the governor walked out in the middle of the storyline. Like, okay, I'm giving you a mulligan.
Here's your lemons. Let's make some lemonade.
So no, what I've seen so far this year is really good, but I can't put Justified in the top 10. Is it strike through worthy?
Do I think Justified is
it's not going to make the top 10.
Worthy than The Walking Dead?
Oh, absolutely. I really hated last year's season.
See, I didn't really hate it. Go ahead and
when
strike it through. I don't think that's gonna
buying
make
that
it.
her son was that was the worst when she actually bought that her son murdered tried to murder Art. Fuck off. Like,
Yeah.
I know you're a terrible mother, but come on. Really?
Yeah, and also that being Danny's idea. Is it Danny? Is it
That was
Daryl?
Daryl.
That being Daryl's idea is whatever. He's not that smart. Okay, strike it through.
Homeland.
Justified better finish.
Did we already talk
strong
about
this year,
Homeland?
man.
I thought we talked about Homeland's off there.
We
Boom.
did. Get that out of here.
Penny Dreadful.
Didn't see any of it.
Excellent
Wish
show.
I had.
Very genre aware. Really modern takes on some classic monster tales. Especially, I really, really like the Frankenstein
The
stuff.
Mummy. Oh,
Especially since you thought it was going to be the one way, and then it gloriously turned out to be the other way. You thought you were going to get one Frankenstein, and you got a more, classic novel Frankenstein. I think it's really, really in your wheelhouse, and you would love watching it.
I will catch up on that.
But I
this
can't
year.
give it a top 10, and you not seeing it's the icing on the cake. So,
Okay.
format strike through. Last week tonight with John Oliver, one that I was originally not very impressed with.
I know. Yeah, you didn't like the show at all.
I think because that long format only works when there's something truly worthy of the long format.
I think you're right.
And
yeah.
a few if all you see is like he eviscerates the Miss America pageant,
Oh yeah, yeah.
but who cares?
Right. But net neutrality.
Who cares?
He
Net
goes
neutrality.
to town on that too.
The prison industrial complex.
Yeah.
What are some other things?
See, I'm just going to make the point. That is the thing that I really love about this show, and why it's even on this list is that long format and being able to really dissect an issue. Whereas you look at like Colbert Report, you look at Jon Stewart, those guys do the same kind of commentary, but
It's
in
very
a much shorter, more cut up version of it. Whereas John Oliver takes the time to lay out a case and prove his point.
I'll go so far as I think that I don't think that Jon Stewart or Stephen Colbert changes anyone's minds. Like,
They're there for people who already agreed to laugh at.
maybe if you're a moderate, you might have your mind changed on the edges, but they're not really. They're lampooning or mocking things that they think are on the face of it as liberals, worthy of being lampooned and mocked. I think John Oliver, you have to have an open mind, but he lays devastating cases against these things that are not necessarily it always drives me crazy if when people try to put the war on drugs as a conservative versus liberal, like, oh, it's the marijuana hippies wanting the drug, and it's the law and order straight-laced conservatives that want to keep the criminals behind bars. That's ignorant. If you think that, you're ignorant. Like, this is a civil liberties thing that affects all of us Americans, and it's completely unnecessary. And it doesn't do anything to affect crime. Violent crime is at an all-time low in this country, yet our prisons are swelling and filling. Why? Because of the war on drugs. And it's racist, it's anti-poverty. It is one of the worst ideas in the history of this country, who had slavery in the Constitution. Like, that's what drives, and I think that if you come in there then as a moderate or an politically interested person, that the special interest groups interfering with American politics at the local level, hugely eye-opening. Yeah, how these super PACs are authoring bills that the representatives are pushing through that have not even read it. Yeah. Just
Civil
amazing.
forfeiture was another one that I really loved.
Which is another war on drugs issue.
Sure. Yes, tangentially, but certainly, mixed up in that whole thing.
So great. It totally. I was skeptical. I didn't like the first few, but I think what brought me in was the prison episode. I saw something posted on Facebook, and that made me go through and watch them all. And I came away very impressed, really interested in seeing next season. Yeah,
that particular episode felt like a miniature version of The House I Live In, that documentary. Yeah. He makes a lot of the same points. Sure. And I think, that show's really great in a way that, in a different way from The Daily Show or The Colbert Report.
Is it going to make our top 10?
I don't think it doesn't.
All right, so it's not a strike through.
I don't think it's a strike through, no.
Here's a strike through, but probably not because of its quality. This was a 4-episode miniseries. Olive Kitteridge.
Okay.
Again, I'm a sucker for meditation on loss and regret, and this was a kind of like a boy's life done on the cheap, where you see this couple and this family, this traditional nuclear family, grow up in these different like decades.
Okay.
You know, from the time that they're in
Did they
their,
CG them? Why is it on the cheap?
because Richard Linklater actually went and filmed. Okay,
over
we're gonna
16
film.
years.
Yeah,
and-
we're gonna
yeah.
watch this guy grow up. Where they recast the boy and they
okay.
made up people and they got toupees and hair
So
pieces
it's a
and all that
fictionalized
stuff.
version of.
Yeah. But it's just, if you liked like Revolutionary Road, like if you like watching terrible families and the reasons that they stay together and the reasons they go apart, and just this very intense character study of a very peculiar woman and the relationships she has in her family and in the community, I thought is extremely watchable, and I really, really liked it. But again, I think if you like The Leftovers, you'd like Olive Kitteridge. If you like I said, Revolutionary Road, you'd like Olive Kitteridge. So you kind of like but it didn't get a lot of. I felt like it was promoted on HBO for like 2 weeks, and then it was over in a weekend. And it's like not one of those like True Detective that had 8 weeks to build. It's just like if you didn't see it that weekend, you're done.
Yeah.
And
I didn't see it that weekend, so I missed out on it.
Pretty good. Also has Nazi poster boy Todd from Breaking Bad.
Jesse Plemons.
in a different despicable role.
All right, so strike it through.
I'm gonna strike it through, but not because of equality, just because I'm not gonna argue. I don't think it belongs in the top 10 because it's such a peculiar. It's like Limburger cheese. It's very strong and overpowering, but it's not to everybody's taste.
Okay.
Newsroom. I thought Newsroom season 3 was incredibly strong.
I think it was their best season, except for
inarguably.
maybe the very last episode, and in potentially the episode right before it.
Very last episode is kind of bullshit.
Yeah. I don't think I liked the last episode. You know what it is? I think I liked the stuff where they were dealing with issues surrounding journalism and reporting the actual fucking news versus twittering.
Yeah.
When it got into like the real relationshipy stuff and like Will dealing with his dad and like that kind of shit and dealing with his past and his marriage, that was boring to me.
Although I gotta say, I thought Dawn and Sloane were watchable this season, and when I saw them getting together at the end of last season, I wanted to slit my wrist.
No, I didn't like them this season either.
I'm not gonna defend that. Maggie and what was his name?
See,
Jim?
I thought they were better this season.
Fuck you.
I know we're exactly.
Fuck you.
We're exactly the opposite.
You're
here.
just wrong, man. I'm striking it through. Moving on.
Wait, you're striking it through.
What? So
you're saying this is the strongest season of this show, but you want to strike it through? Why?
Because I just don't think it's. No, I was just making a joke about how wrong you were.
Oh, okay. As a matter of fact, where are the rest of yours? I'm striking them all through.
Maggie and Jim were disgusting these people are going to be cursed to passive aggressively make each other's lives miserable, and they're two cardboard milquetoast skim milk versions of people,
but they both discovered
that just
themselves.
speak and play.
They
great.
discovered themselves at the very end of the series, right? Like Jim finally gets it.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't.
He got it enough to tell her that he loved her, which he never did before with anybody, right?
Congratulations. You were able to say, I love you to another human being.
I'm just saying, man. It's a big step for Jim. Big step for Maggie, too. I think she came to a realization with her boyfriend during the season. I don't know, man. I didn't hate that relationship nearly as much as you did.
They're both giant pussies when it comes to relationships, and they're just gross, and they're just neurotic in this very particularly Aaron Sorkin gross way.
I feel the exact same way about Sloane and what's his nuts.
Don.
Don.
No,
yeah.
I first of all, I love Sloane.
I think they're neurotic in the worst possible way.
Yeah, I mean, at least they're honest with each other. I mean, I feel
All right.
like Maggie and Jim are fun. That's the thing that drives me crazy. Maggie and Jim are in a fundamentally dishonest, exploitive, kind of, I don't know, relationship, and
Hmm.
I guess so is Don and Sloane, because they're always trying to kind of trick each other and scheme each other and one up each other. But at least they're being honest about, hey, I don't know what kind of relationship we are. We both aren't relationship people.
Hmm.
But we're in this relationship, and how do we feel about this? Where Jim and Maggie are like, we've always been in a relationship since day one. We've just been fighting it tooth and nail, and we like
But
we
so
like fictionalized, idealized versions of each other that don't actually exist. And
but
that's gross to me.
Sloan and Dawn were also fighting it the entire time. Like they're making jokes about how they're not in a relationship, and
Were they? I thought it was more like they're playing chicken. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't want to be the first one to admit it because of all this baggage and stuff. And
they were, and that is roughly the same as the passive aggressive stuff that Maggie and Jim were doing.
yeah. I
To
don't
me,
know.
anyway, I found it as annoying, certainly.
And certainly, this is all the weakest parts of the show.
Oh yeah, by far.
But I really liked the kind of commentary on the Snowden.
Oh man, that stuff is great.
Yeah, and how the
Just
rights
the
of the
stuff
press
with the website.
and like when press people. The press can be heroic,
Mm-hmm.
but they're content to. They're so afraid to become dinosaurs that they just settle for the cheap and easy broad appeal. And we need a functioning press to make democracy work. Because if
Yeah.
the shadows of our society and the things we're uncomfortable talking about, everybody wants to talk about celebrities and who bedded who and see squirrels on water skis and all this other shit because it's easy, it's dumb, it's Ron Burgundy too, right?
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time and effort to get to the deep issues of society and the kind of stare, when we do awful things in collective sense. And how to fix those problems. And
Yeah.
I just think it's fascinating, these people that go into journalism and then they just do bullshit.
No, that's what I loved about Jim and his girlfriend's relationship that season.
It's like, I'm already over the presidential election for 2016 because it just started. Like, this is something that's
years
happening
before.
2 years,
Yeah.
and now it's like all this. It's like, oh, when are they going to announce? And is this going to be? Oh, they're doing a true in Iowa. Maybe they'll. Fuck, who gives
who
a
cares?
shit?
Mhm.
Who gives a shit? They don't have platforms yet. They're all lying. And nobody. The news is, when are they going to run? Not why should I vote for this person, or what's their history that shows that they have any kind of integrity or knowledge about the vast, complex things that they need to know to effectively govern this country. I
Yeah.
hate it.
It's a
I hate
magician
it.
waving his hand over here, so you don't see the rest of
And it's
what
like,
he's doing.
do they know that? Are they so like? It's like this season made a great point of like how afraid they are to lose access.
Yeah.
Like, if access to these senators and politicians means you can just parrot the bullshit that they're saying, who gives a shit about the access?
Yeah.
It's like,
That's why we don't chase access.
exactly.
Because
I don't ever want to have Scott Gimple say, we're not going to give you interviews because you hurt our feelings. Well, fuck you, Scott. I don't need to know what Andrew Lincoln thought about the best season ever of The Walking Dead.
Yeah, which weapon is his favorite over the course of the series? I don't give a
I've got
fuck.
2 eyeballs. I got 2 ears. I can make my own judgments. And why do journalists not? Why
Because it's easy.
don't
Like
they have the
you said,
intestinal fortitude to do that?
It's much easier for people to digest those little bites than it is to come up with a solid opinion.
Like, we're
and
going to
a
have,
stance.
McCain and Feinstein on for the umpth time to hear what to say all the time. Like, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, so the newsroom does a fantastic job, and it's one of the only shows on TV that's doing that, and that's why I like it so much.
But it's got so much terrible stuff.
It does. It's a mixture of really fantastic commentary on society and just complete bullshit.
And another thing is, it's written by an extremely liberal person to, and half the people are supposedly conservative, and I'm conservative enough to be annoyed and call bullshit on that, but not conservative enough that it makes me switch the channel. But like, a lot of the people that should be watching this, again, kind of like John Oliver, a lot of Americans should be watching the show and paying attention, and they don't, because there's a lot of tone deaf shit happening here with Aaron Sorkin. But anyway, he took his ball and went home, and he's not going to do any more seasons, which I'm fine with.
That's fine. Yeah. I'm okay with that.
I felt like he told the story he wanted to tell. This is not getting stripped through, right?
No.
That brings us to Archer. What did you think about the experiment that was Archer Vice, or did you see all of Archer Vice?
I haven't seen season 5.
When they said about what a radical departure this was going to be from Archer and how expensive it was to get all these different sets and have all these different costumes and to be different, and they made a country. I was expecting that last season to be just amazing, and I thought it was just okay. It's not. I think my favorite Archer season is the one where he gets breast cancer and goes on the rampage.
Is that 3? I think that's
it's either 2 or 3. I'm not sure.
okay.
But I thought that was awesome. Last season, it's like so many jokes were one note, like Thin Pam and her cocaine rampages. That was funny for the first episode or 2, and Charlene being this country star and oblivious, and I don't know. And you haven't seen it, so I just want to strike it through. It wasn't bad. I laughed. There were some really good moments, but it certainly wasn't Archer at its best.
We can strike it. I haven't seen it, so I don't think it's going to make a top 10
I haven't seen
anyway.
any of the new ones either. It's on my DVR, but
Yeah, I almost bought that, but I bought It's Always Sunny instead.
All right. Shall we talk about Girls? Did you see any of last season?
Nope, haven't seen anything since the end of season 2.
I thought Girls is as strong or as weak as Girls always is. The stand-up episode last season, I thought, was where they all went. Where was it? Was it Martha's Vineyard? They went to some really fancy vacation spot, all of the girls, and they got into a lot of like misadventures and personal feelings hurt and kind of questioned whether they should all be friends. It's one of those things where it's like you're starting to become an adult, and the people you grew up with and went to college with are like, does it make sense for us to be friends anymore? Yeah.
It's up to you, man. Strike through or
you haven't
it on the
seen
list.
it. You haven't,
I haven't
seen it, so I'm not going to.
But I
And
haven't
it's
seen a lot of
comedy.
this stuff, man.
Louis,
Haven't seen it.
you didn't see last season at
Nope.
all?
Nope.
Well, I'm not going to strike it through just out of respect.
All right.
But
Is it standard Louis? Does Louis get up to the things that Louis gets up to?
I don't know, man. I felt like there was a lot. Do you remember the bully episode in, I think, season 1 or season 2?
Yeah, where he's on a date and they come in and they...
Where that felt kind of like a lot different than the other Louis.
Yeah.
Like it felt like it was approaching, like it wasn't even that funny. It was just like a serious look at something real going on in America that bothered Louis, like people doing shitty job parenting and the shitty results that we're putting up with. And I felt like there was a lot of episodes this year that were just trying to do that in that wheelhouse, which is fine with me. I thought those are fantastic, but it's, is it the best Louis? Is it the worst Louis? Is it average Louis? I don't know. Louis is a very hard show to define.
It is.
I
and that's what
think
makes
we
it great, right?
We should try to podcast Louis this year and just not have like any notes, or we should just watch it and just see what happens, because I feel like that's the only way you can cover it.
Yeah, I could be down with that.
Last season, Portlandia.
Haven't seen that.
All right. It was really good, but it's kind of Portlandia.
Sure.
This is my problem with comedies. Like, there weren't arcs. I can think of like specific skits that were really funny, but that's the problem with covering comedy. Key and Peele.
Are we striking through Portlandia?
Nah, I'm gonna strike through it, but
Okay.
I can't imagine making my top 10.
Key and Peele, I do not watch on TV. I watch on YouTube. So I don't know if I've seen, like, I saw a couple of things that you were watching. I saw a Stan Lee skit. I saw
The Strike Force Eagle 5 or whatever it was, which was a pitch perfect parody of like an 80s Cinemax action sex flick.
All right. I saw the one where he goes into where he becomes progressively more enamored with the food and the accommodations that he's
the continental
he's in.
breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's glorious. I loved it.
And it seemed like they got this weird format where they have like something that's funny on the face of it, and then it's funny how much they're crushing that particular wheelhouse. And then they always have this really absurd twist that takes it into a very dark place or makes you feel uncomfortable about it. The one that I loved was Carl from Family Matters. Like the real actor storming into this Hollywood producer and saying, "This Steve Urkel shit is a bunch of bullshit. He turned me into a goddamn toaster last episode. I'm a serious actor. I was in Die Hard. This
Yeah.
is supposed to be the blue collar version of the Cosby's. God damn it!" And it's just like really funny because number one, he's doing an awesome Carl Winslow, or the guy that plays Carl Winslow, and this guy is doing an awesome coked up version of like an '80s television executive, and then they get this guy coming in as Jaleel White or whatever, the kid that plays Urkel, and he's like a fucking Gus Fring from Breaking Bad character that everyone is afraid of. It was jaw dropping and hysterical all at the same time.
That's awesome. And that 90s, that 80s/90s sex action flick thing was outstanding.
Yeah, and
outstanding.
They do like stuff on sexism really well. They do stuff on racism really well. They do a lot of and then they also do just slapstick crazy shit that's really funny too.
But I don't know what seasons of stuff I've seen.
Yeah, if you're watching
problem,
on YouTube, it's tough.
Yeah,
because you're just getting the Liam Neesons and
everybody's seen that. I don't know. I don't feel right striking it through because it's such the skits I've seen have been so great.
I want to say so far of all the comedies,
really
I've enjoyed it the most.
Yeah.
So
I can tell you're mildly obsessed with Key and Peele.
If I had to put one on the top 10, it'd be Key and Peele over Portlandia, over Louie, over Girls, over Archer, over Silicon Valley for sure.
It's Always Sunny. Where did It's Always Sunny
Always
go?
Sunny. It's down there.
It's on the next page.
Is it? Yeah, it is. Not struck through.
No, we're gonna have to debate that. Okay, let's leave it for now.
The Nick.
The
Nick is a show that I thought was gorgeous and well shot and well acted.
And highly racist.
And very uncomfortably racist. And then as the season went on, it became a very affecting portrayal of upper class drug addiction and how a junkie is a junkie. And the medical proto-science continued to be fascinating and amazing to deal with, the way it dealt with.
And gore everywhere, right?
Medical gore.
Dropping intestines out of the people's bodies.
Like very unsexy sex and some sexy sex.
Sexy sex.
Just a badass sequence that came out of nowhere in the finale, or maybe it was the second to the finale episode, involving this Chinese opium den kind of drug dealer, criminal underworld boss. It was something else, and they set up season 2 so beautifully. And if you haven't listened to the Bald Move TV that I did episode I did on the Nick with Shane Bowman, because he is a student of cinema in the way that I'm not, and the things he talked about, the way
in the film
Soderbergh,
way, right?
The way Soderbergh did everything. This was the Louis of drama. He shot, he lit, he edited, he directed the entire season start to finish. And I think that's...
He released it for $5 on the internet.
It was on Cinemax. I think it's weird that I feel like if we're going to have a platinum age of television, that's where it's going to go. It's going to be these Fabergé egg creations that singular geniuses do, and they just get, it's like
the auteur,
these passion projects. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine if we get a Stanley Kubrick of television and he's allowed to do a season of television?
Vince Gilligan, baby. Vince Gilligan. Now he's a little more action oriented. Okay, so what would you do with this?
Well, you haven't seen it.
That's a problem. Yeah.
So I don't think it can be in our top 10, and I don't know that it's worthy of the top 10.
Shows that I haven't seen can definitely be in the top 10.
It's not a strike through, I'll tell you that much.
Okay, then let's move on.
The Americans.
I thought...
That's a legitimate threat to the top 10.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later. All these ones that are kind of almost guaranteed to be near the top 10 or in the top 10, let's talk about later when we're debating where they belong in the top 10.
Okay. Cosmos.
Yeah, Cosmos is a great series. I mean, as a follow-up to the original Carl Sagan's Cosmos.
Better than Carl Sagan's Cosmos.
Yeah, I think so. It partially because it's updated with modern science, and you didn't need the addendum on the end to say, well, I'm Carl Sagan and a lot of this shit was wrong.
Well, but also Neil deGrasse Tyson is a much better advocate for science than Carl Sagan.
He is. He's a better speaker, I think. Carl Sagan is engaging, but Neil deGrasse Tyson is like the epitome of engaging science talk.
Yeah. He's very human. He humanizes this very...
Yeah.
And I thought that the way they did the animated
The ship of the mind or whatever it is.
No. I'm talking about the literal animated, like old school animation of the different scientists' lives, and every episode had this historical focus and what it means to science today to see. Because I think that's interesting.
Well, if you look at the original Carl Sagan one, that also did that in a really outstanding way.
But I thought the animation was better because,
the formula is the same.
The formula is the same, but I thought it was more approachable. And watching it with my 8-year-old, I think it was neat because it's hard to do meaningful science today.
Yeah.
Like, breakthroughs back then. Now, you also got, Isaac Newton inventing calculus to figure out problems with the orbital mechanics, okay?
Sure.
So, like, I'm not saying there wasn't heavy lifting back then, but you also had guys that, like, hey, I'm going to look at this prism rainbow under a microscope and look at these strange gaps and things that my son could imagine himself doing and experiments that he could imagine himself doing, making these giant breakthroughs and seeing like all different types of people that were poor and were very uneducated, and women and people that were blind and or deaf, making these very big advances to science, people that stood up against, like the gentleman that challenged the fallacy that, leaded gasoline and fuels were harmless, and that there's like, no, that's not poisoning the ocean. And there's always been how the idea that some scientists will lie for money. And like, just because some scientists do this, like that science is a method that works, but not everyone uses it correctly, and some people can use it to deceive. I just thought it was awesome.
That's not really in the original very much. I mean, there's kind of like the stuff that they bring up with Tycho Brahe, and that kind of gets into that a little bit.
No, where scientists
the
can
feuds between the scientists, and like taking credit when maybe they didn't deserve it and stuff like that.
Right.
I think that's all like that's much more elaborated on in the new one, which is good. And like, I wasn't alive in 1980, so I don't know what the general feeling was about the original Cosmos. I feel like it might have been just exactly like this Cosmos is, where, it didn't have the history, but when it came out, people were like, this is amazing. This is the most influential science documentary ever. And I feel like that was revived in this one in a way that was surprising. Like, I didn't think could be done again, because Cosmos is so defining.
I think society seemed, I don't know that ratings were that great. I don't know a lot of people saw this.
Sure.
Whereas I think many more people saw it. It was on PBS, and there was just so much, an event like that almost seemed guaranteed to draw eyeballs because there was only 4 channels. And what are you going to do?
In 1980, there's only 4 channels?
Yeah, like you had ABC, NBC, CBS.
There's no cable in 1980?
Not a lot of people had cable. Yes, cable was around and satellite dishes were around, but I'm talking about like they're just
mainstream.
Certainly didn't have hundreds of channels.
No.
24/7 specific narrowband content being delivered. But it does seem like it was taken more serious. Like, I can remember Johnny Carson making fun of the billions and billions and how egghead that, Carl Sagan looked and kind of came across on the episode, whereas nobody was doing that to Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Come on, get out of those turtlenecks, man.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff was kind of goofy and dated even in the day, whereas Neil deGrasse Tyson seems like, Neil deGrasse Tyson is a badass. Have you seen him in college when he wrestled?
I have.
The
man's
a beast. Olympic god. Like, bulging pecs and biceps. He looks like he'd tear your ass apart.
And a brain to match.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. It's crazy.
And he can also solve equations for P. I mean, it's like he's I think you get the idea that he's lived a life in a way that Carl Sagan never did.
Yeah, you're right.
He's got,
right.
like...
He's more common man.
Yeah, and you don't even have to know anything about that. You feel like it comes across. I
Yeah.
can't say enough good things about Cosmos.
This is definitely not a strike through.
It's not a strike through. House of Cards.
House of Cards is not a strike through in my opinion.
I don't understand why it gets so much hate and meh.
Yeah.
From
a lot of people
that
say
I
season 2 was far worse than season 1, and I don't agree.
from people that I respect and admire too. It's not like just Crank saying that.
Yeah.
So was I just loopy as hell doing the marathon?
Might have been.
Was
We
I
watched
just-
those back to back to back.
Was it like some kind of bias where I'm spending an insane amount of personal time and energy to cover this thing? It must be good.
Could be. But with that said, that's not a strike through for me.
I mean, to me, it begins and ends with Kevin Spacey and I want to say Claire Danes is not Claire. Her name is Claire. Princess Bride. Robin Wright.
Yeah.
That's the show right there. Those two are phenomenal and amazing at what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I can't stop watching.
And it's not just their chemistry on screen, it's also the way that the show uses them.
Yeah.
And this season against each other.
Right.
And I thought that was fascinating. A direction they did not explore at all in season 1.
Right.
Now they're kind of working against each other and coming back together a little bit. And
like when Francis Underwood went in there in his role as president of the Senate and just fucked with everybody using the rules
filibuster shit.
That is just as cool and amazing as any barroom brawl in Banshee.
Yeah, or
like,
any meeting between gangsters in The Wire.
It was
right?
gangster.
It was gangster as hell. It was. That's one phenomenal scene. I kind of liked the showdown between Tusk and
a very
and Frank.
Like in a way, the president. I'm glad they made it a proxy war, and it seemed fitting over the overall theme. But I felt like Tusk was a worthy foe for Underwood.
I did too, definitely. And the stuff they did with Freddy, like my heart broke for Freddy by the end of this thing, man. And was it his nephew or his son?
I think it was his son. Yeah.
Okay. That stuff was fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can say that this season was worse than season 1.
I am mystified, but again, it's not like I think the people that are saying that are idiots either. So
sure,
definitely not a strike through. We're getting rarefied air.
We are.
I somehow made a reverse list, probably because the first things that came to my mind when I made this document were the awesomest ones.
Sure.
Orange is the New Black. You have no opinion on.
Don't tell me. Yeah, you're right. I haven't seen it, so
it's a phenomenal show, and season 2. I think raised it in every single way. I mean, there's still one or two things that I wish they didn't do, but
have they made it out of the Delta Quadrant yet?
No. The Chakotay and Chipotle and Janeway are all still stuck there.
Okay.
It's great. It's great. It had a better villain in season 2. They figured out kind of what to do with Taylor Schilling to make her not as annoying. They took the focus off of her and put it on some of the more colorful characters. We got, the great thing about the show is seeing the backgrounds of the women and these flashbacks of how they ended up in prison, what were their various circumstances, and
does it give you any kind of commentary on society?
Oh, yeah.
And the drug war and stuff like that?
Yeah, and some of the uniquely feminine things that go wrong because although some of them are like legitimate gangsters and the like Avon Barksdale since the word, but some of them are just moms that were in bad situations and they're trying to do what's right for the kids, or and they took this one character who was just this background cancer patient in season 1 and gave her this awesome backstory that really made you very sad that she's in the situation she's in. And it was a really great experience. I had a lot of fun podcasting with the crew of women that I recruited for that, hoping to do it again for season 3. It's tough though because you haven't seen any of it. It's tough,
but
to put it in the bald move top 10. It's not a strike.
Not a strike through.
Parks and Rec.
I have not seen the recent seasons. You said they completely changed it up this season, right?
And the jury is still kind of out on that. I don't know how I feel about the new season, but I thought last season was excellent.
Okay, so last season's the one that would be eligible for this?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, they just started, and it's weird. They're doing 2 at a time. Like, I feel like they're trying to burn through this season as quickly as they can.
Maybe it sucks.
That's not what I've heard from people, and it's not what I expect from the show's kind of swan song. But to me, it's kind of like
Swanson. What?
Yeah, the Swanson swan song. The Swan song. I don't know. It's kind of like I got a knee jerk dislike of it in the same way that, for example, Boardwalk Empire, when I found out it was getting less episodes,
Okay.
and it's like, is this bullshit? Are they getting forced out? And what does NBC really think about this show? I mean, NBC gets terrible ratings and everything, but like, why are you trying to put this horse out to pasture faster than it needs to be? I don't know.
Huh.
I thought, but last season I thought Parks and Rec was awesome. I can't get enough of Andy and April. To me, that is the Louis-ized version of me and my girlfriend's life, and kind of how
did they explain Chris Pratt getting extraordinarily buffed?
He cut out drinking beer.
That's it.
He
That's the
walked
only thing he
in,
did
yeah,
differently.
and that's because
That's amazing. Okay.
yeah. He's like, yeah. It turns out like there's like tons of calories in beer.
That's great. That's perfect.
But he's great. I thought Ron, his relationship with Xenia Warrior Princess, who is his new wife, and him
Really?
him becoming a father, and him raising these two little girls. There was some really good stuff at that, really funny stuff with his ex-wives, as always.
Fuck, I can't think of her name. She was in Battlestar Galactica as well.
Who?
Xena.
Xenia Warrior Princess?
Yeah. Do you remember her name?
No, but if you Google Xenia Warrior Princess, it will be like the #1 result.
Yeah, that's true.
Lucy Lawless.
Yeah, there you go.
Boom, you just got jammed, pal.
Jamming me up. All right, so
I think Tom is
not a
funny.
strike-through?
Donna's funny. Like, this is my favorite comedy on television, and the fact that it takes place in Indiana
yeah, I see.
is the icing on the cake, because it feels like somehow they accurately lampoon like small town politics without feeling like it's talking down to the inhabitants of it, and like showing some of the just crazy, stupid, backward stuff that people believe without it seeming mean or threatening like it sometimes is. I love Parks and Recs. The theme song makes me fucking happy just hearing it. Not a strike through. It's been a while since I've had a strike through, Jim.
It has been, but we're getting to the top of the list.
I don't see how we put it on the top of the list, because it's you haven't seen it though.
Okay.
The Leftovers.
This is good. This is real good. Not a strike through.
Yeah, like we will say a lot about in the show proper.
Honestly, I'm looking at the rest of the top of this list. None of them a strike through. Like just right off the top, none a strike through.
All right.
Boardwalk Empire, not a strike through.
Game of Thrones.
Strike it through.
Strike it through. Fuck Game of Thrones.
Not a strike through.
Mad Men.
Nope. It's
Fargo.
good. All safe.
True Detective.
Totally safe.
Now, let's get controversial here. I'm going to start a new list, and note note the crucial change. It's numbered.
I don't think we're ready for a numbered list, but like we have too many to number.
This is the next step. We can't.
This is the next step. The next step is saying put the things that we know are going to make it.
All right.
Into the top, right?
These are safe, right? These are.
Paste those back in. Let me see them.
Oh shit! What? Ah! Damn you, Chrome!
You fucked it up, man. You fucked it up.
I don't.
True Detective.
This order is not good. Is not good.
Sure, that's why I didn't feel comfortable numbering. Maybe it's a bulleted list.
But we do have. We're wanting to try to get in this in the top 10.
So okay. So those 6: True Detective, Fargo.
Don't worry
Mad
about
Men,
the order, but
Game
they
of
belong in the top
Thrones,
10.
Boardwalk Empire and The Leftovers. The only one that I am not certain about is Boardwalk Empire in that list.
Ooh, I thought you were going to say The Leftovers.
No, I like The Leftovers much more than Boardwalk Empire last season. But I think if you remove Boardwalk Empire from there and leave it unstricken through, we'll talk about it again as we talk about kind of all the rest of these.
Well, I kind of want. I'm interested in fighting for it in the top 10. So
sure, which means
if we
it
end up
needs
with
to
the
come off
top
the
20,
guaranteed.
then we get the bare knuckle brawl out and we start. But right now, we need to get to that point.
Yeah, so move that back down into the main.
Well, no,
list.
I think we need to get it. We need to get everything numbered, and then we need to fight where it's at, and then we just take the top 10, right? Like it seems like you're wanting to compose the top 10 in real time. I'm just wanting to get the stuff we want up there, and then we fight about the order, and then we just take the top 10 once that's done, right?
Well, what I want to do is I want to go through and I want to make a list of the guaranteed top 10 because if there are more than 10 of the guaranteed top 10,
There will be.
then no, I'm saying stuff that absolutely has to make it onto to the top 10. I would not put like I don't know, the Nick on there, would you?
I would think I think it should go on there, and then it'll probably fall out of the top 10, but I just don't know.
All right, I think we're coming at this from two different angles.
Well,
But
we already went through and did the obvious no's. So to me, it's like
So now it's the
argue
obvious
we could take
yes.
all these. How about this? We take all the unstruck through, we put them in the numbered list, and we try to order them, and then we take the top 10 from there.
Okay, I think it's a fool's errand to try and order anything outside of the top 10, which is why I'm saying
Fine, we don't have
let's
to
narrow
order
it down
anything
to
outside the
guaranteed
top 10.
top 10s. But you have to order everything there to find your top 10. What I'm saying is if we have more than 10 guaranteed top 10s, then those fight it out. If we have 7 guaranteed top 10s, then we fight it out amongst the others to see which is in the top.
I think we're
other 3
we're
spots.
essentially approaching it from the exact same way, just opposite ends.
I think so, yeah.
And I'm not really rabid about sorting the bottom 10 or the outside of top 10, but I think we need to get them up on the list.
Look how many fucking shows. Is that really 19?
Yep.
How is that possible?
Well, I think that's it though. Oh, Silicon Valley.
Get that thing up there. Jesus Christ, man. We watched too much
That's actually
TV
better
this
than
year.
that's actually better than I was thinking. I thought we might end up with more than 20.
All right,
So,
I'd
okay.
suggest we take a short break. Refill our drinks,
Okay.
hit the bathrooms, cool it off in here. It's getting a little warm in here, man.
And then I'm actually was cold because I forgot to bring my hoodie today.
Yeah, I might
so-
drop my hoodie. We'll
All
see
right.
about that.
I'm comfortable now. But yeah, let's it's time to get out the brass knuckles
Okay.
and have the battle royale.
There's the top 20, apparently.
There's a top 20 in not necessarily this order.
No.
And then
Most likely
I can
not
almost
this
get
order.
the whole I can almost get the whole list in there.
Take one off. Let's just drop
If
the
the
Americans.
font were slightly smaller, I could probably do that. Let me see. Whoa. Hey. Boom.
All right. So we'll be back in a few minutes for round number 2.